Hey, welcome to the Hunting Illinois podcast. I'm Jason. With us today is the whole team. So we got Lauren, Dan, and Curtis. So you guys have all been getting out lately. Have actually gotten some turkey hunting experience in. Have gotten out yourselves and have gotten out with some mentees. So we'll hear some stories about how our spring has been going so far. I'm still been sitting on the bench till May 7th for the last part, the last season segment there. So I'm still raring to go to get out. But you guys have been out, and so we'll hear about all your kind of activities so far this spring here. Before we get going on that, though, Dan has some outdoor updates. So what's going on, Dan?
Yeah, so just a couple news items here. Nothing too out of the normal, except for kind of the last one we'll touch on. But one first reminder, obviously, while it's spring turkey season, the deer lottery, the first lottery is currently open and ends on April 30th. So about a week and a half or so to get that lottery application in. And if you're just brand new and you don't know kind of where to get started, how to go through that process, maybe you need some assistance on looking at what sites may be best to apply for. Jason and I did a quick probably 30 to 45 minute lunchtime webinar a few weeks ago that we've now uploaded to YouTube, walking through that whole process. I talk about kind of why I'm selecting the sites I am for next year. And I think it's a pretty good webinar. So if you're brand new to the firearm deer lottery application in Illinois, you may find that useful. So we'll drop a link down below that takes you right to it. But again, you've got till April 30th to get that first lottery in. And then the second application period opens May 11th and closes June 30th. The third lottery is July 13th and concludes August 21st. Moving right along, we'll kind of stick with deer. So if you've been on social media the past couple of days, you probably saw a big change announced by Illinois DNR. They put out some information that they've discovered chronic wasting disease in a few new areas, and that's kind of prompting this overall suspension of their sharpshooting efforts or their sharpshooting operations. So we'll put a link down below that adds a little bit more context into to some of the language that IDNR put out noting this change. But we definitely wanted to highlight it because we get quite a few questions about CWD, and so we wanted to pass that along. So again, full links down below. Right up next, actually, I should say they did in that press release talk about they're going to host a bunch of public meetings, which I know we've kind of attended some in the past, and they're pretty informative. You can talk to the biologist, ask questions. They're going to answer questions. They usually have some kind of formal presentation to kick things off. They have not scheduled those public meetings yet for CWD to talk about these new changes, but once they do, we'll be sure to help share that information so you can attend those public meetings if you're interested.
Hey
All
Dan,
right. So obviously, what's
I just
Yep.
want to say real quick with that, in case that freaks anyone out who's a new hunter, just it doesn't change anything if you are a hunter. Just make sure if you're in those areas, get your deer tested. That's what you should have been doing this whole time anyway. So I got mine tested here, and I got they actually sent me back saying it was negative this past year. So
And that
um,
process is getting a lot more
yeah,
streamlined and a lot quicker too.
and I think that's where the future is going to be at. It's just going to be constant monitoring and seeing what happens next with
Yeah,
the
and
spread of
there's
it.
some science in some states out there that are really looking at basically hunter submitted samples. So instead of having to take it to a facility or drop the head off, it'll come with a little card. It'll come with all the things you need to get that sample, as well as I've seen some states issue a QR code to a video that kind of shows you and walks you through how to take that sample. So I definitely see more and more ease of testing to be on the horizon very soon,
Mhm.
for sure. Obviously, we're in turkey season, so my kind of last news update is kind of pretty relevant there. But the Illinois youth turkey season, man, did they have a banger of a season. So they set a record, a preliminary total of 2,318 birds were harvested. And just a reminder, that's 2 weekends. So the Southern youth season was March 28th to 29th. And then the North season was a week after that on April 4th and 5th. And they had a record year. So it surpassed last year, which was also a record of 2,099 birds. So a lot of birds were harvested during the youth season. So that's fantastic. And one thing I found pretty cool too was not only was the harvest a record, but they also sold a record number of permits. So they sold over 7,300 permits, where if you do the math, you're still looking at over a 30% success rate for youth hunters, which is, I believe, the second or third year in a row that youth season has had over a 30% success rate. So that just speaks to how many youth are interested in turkey hunting, seeing these numbers continue to climb. But I also think it shows how good the turkey population is doing in Illinois. So pretty cool stuff. So a big congratulations to all the youth who got out and got to harvest a bird. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that all those numbers are really putting a feather in the turkey management's hat there, as to say.
Yep. And especially if you think back to it, turkey hunting isn't, it's a fairly new thing in Illinois in the grand scheme of things. Like
Yeah.
we talk about it ad nauseum. We did not have turkey in Illinois for a long time, and it has
Yep.
not been that long since we've really seen them recover and seen that population do what it's doing now to where we have record youth hunts every year.
Hmm.
I still feel like I'm seeing some kind of dinosaur when I see their tracks. Like every time I see their little
Yeah,
feet.
yeah.
Like oh, they're not little feet at all,
No,
but
they're
it
not.
looks like some kind of dinosaur track in the dirt.
Yep. But yeah, that's all I got for the news update. So yep. Turn it
Cool.
back over to you, Jason.
All right. All right. So we've been getting out turkey hunting here this past spring, and we had some mentees go out. Does anybody want to share their stories or experiences that they've had so far?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. So we the North Zone season started on Monday. What is that? April 13th. So yeah, we hunted that Monday, April 13th, the first day. And so those of you not familiar with the season structure in Illinois, we've got these multiple different segments. And the thing about the first segment, so a lot of people like to go for that because you get the first crack at the birds. That makes sense. But the caveat with the first segment is you do not get a weekend. So the first segment is that Monday through Friday, and those are your days to hunt. So you get 0 weekend days. So it's great for folks that want to go out there and get that very first crack at them, but it is tough. You've got to have that flexibility in your work and life schedule that you can hunt in those days, and no matter what segment you get, you're at the odds of the weather, right? It's Illinois in the springtime. We talk about this in our turkey hunting webinar. We've got variable weather in the spring. We could get snow. It's some of our months that get the highest totals of rain, some of our months that get the highest amount of wind. All of these things can make turkey hunting tough, and you've only got these short, 5, 6, 7 days potentially to work with. So,
And especially since you're only hunting the mornings.
yeah,
Hmm.
only the mornings. You really limited, but we lucked out, and Monday morning, so the very first day, was pretty decent. Other than the fact that we had a pretty stiff wind that we were hunting. So we were hunting public land, state park, not far from Quincy, Illinois. And so opening morning, it wasn't like a gale force wind, but we had a steady wind. And for the a lot of times in the morning it's very calm. Even on windy days, that wind doesn't pick up until 9 o'clock or so. And we had a good amount of wind. And what happened is we barely heard any turkeys gobble. There were quite a few hunters out there. We saw maybe, I don't want to say quite a few, because it is limited on IDNR ground, but we maybe saw 6 to 7 trucks out there on the first day. But windy day, we heard very few gobbles. Luckily, I went out and scouted a couple days prior to that, and it was a really nice morning, calm, and I heard gobblers absolutely everywhere. So I had that confidence, and I told that to my hunters. I was hunting with Cheryl and Dieter, and I told them, I was like, these turkeys are here. I know we're not hearing them, but just have faith. And we were able to get into them a little bit that day. It was windy, so they were quiet, but we moved around a little bit. We eventually found some birds that were receptive to our calling. But this is a good thing. Almost all of the woods out there, I would say like 90% of the forest that we saw was all burned. It was great, awesome habitat, but it was very open, and it was kind of hard for us to hide because we were 3 people, moving through the woods trying to get in on turkeys, and we got spotted a couple times. It happens. It's definitely happened to me even when I'm hunting by my own self, so don't feel too bad. It happens to everybody. We got spotted a few times, but we got to the end of that day. We're going to give it another try on day 2. Now, day 2 brought rain and storms, And this, coupled with day one, it being windy and not hearing hardly any gobbles, most of those people that were hunting, they left. So all that next day, we saw only one car out of all those 6 or 7 vehicles that we saw on Monday. Only one car returned, and we only heard one shot. So I know they didn't all tag out. Maybe one of them did, but I think a lot of them maybe got frustrated, didn't hear gobbles, and maybe they went back to work. They canceled their vacation and they said, I'm not going to deal with the rain, the storm, and not hardly any birds, and got out of there. So from Tuesday on, we had the area almost to ourselves, and Tuesday we got into them again, but once again, we kind of got spotted before we got any real shot opportunities. And we were kind of dodging rainstorms, so we didn't have any lightning or anything like that, but we did have some pretty steady sprinkling rain that you can definitely hunt in, but it just gets old. So after a while, we gave that day up too. Wednesday, we had some pretty big thunderstorms come in, and we all just kind of needed a break, because to be honest, turkey hunting, even though you're only doing it in the morning, it takes a lot out of you. Especially when you're waking up super extra early and you've got a bit of a drive. By Wednesday, we were kind of thankful that there were storms that we could sleep in for a day. Not too bad. But Thursday, we were back at it again, and this was arguably our nicest morning of the whole week that we had seen so far. Pretty nice morning. We had a decent amount of gobbles around. We think we have the entire area to ourselves. So this is like a 3,000 acre area. And as far as we know, we were the only hunters out here. So we had two hunters with tags, and we didn't hear any gobbles until 6 a.m. So it was shooting time. We didn't get set up on a bird at the roost or anything like that because nobody talked. But then once we hit 6, turkeys flew down. They really started to get vocal. We were working birds right off the bat, and this was potentially our last day to hunt. So we're pretty aggressively going after these birds, and now kind of splitting up. And we did get on them pretty good. We set up in the woods where it's all burned. We had one hunter, Dieter, just kind of set up in this good funnel where we had birds moving through several times before, and Cheryl and I took off to go after this hot gobbler that was just gobbling up a storm, and we're just going after him, and we get a little ways and we see him and we get down. I got a little bit of video on that. Some of you, if you follow our YouTube, I posted some clips from that. They're not great because they're just from my phone, not a really nice video camera or anything like that, but we set up on the bird. It kind of moved up over the hill. We moved up to where it was, set up one more time, and started calling, and the bird immediately came right up to us, about 20 yards. It was gobbling. It was strutting. Oh, it was putting on a show. I'm filming it. I'm just sitting here waiting for this turkey to just get knocked, just to get punched in the face, and I'm filming all this, and I didn't know that all this time Cheryl did not have a clear view. There was a tree in her way. She could not see the turkey hardly at all. So it's there for, I don't know, close to a minute. It seemed like an hour to me, of course, filming this thing. And then it moves down the hill, and I'm like, okay, she must not have had a clear shot. So I call, it gobbles, it's still excited. We did that back and forth for about 10 minutes or so, and then it decided to come in again, which was awesome. I didn't think it was going to do that, but it came in again, and this time it was further to the right, which I thought was going to be good, but there was more stuff over there, and she did not have a clear view of it once again. And once again, this magical turkey stood out there for between 20-25 yards for, close to a minute, gobbling, strutting, drumming. I mean, just putting on an awesome show. And no shots got fired. The Tom eventually got bored. I guess he decided that we, being the hen, were not interested in him, and he tucked his tail, beard between his legs, and he walked home. He was still gobbling. Like I still tried to call him in a third time, but it was kind of one of those things where he's like, "No, no, no! Like twice is my limit. Like you come to me now if you want to hang out." So we did not get another opportunity, but it was a lot of fun. We got in close enough to really hear and feel that spit and drum, which is pretty cool, something you don't get to experience very often. And I think my turkey hunters were hooked. You know, we didn't get to fire a shot, but we did have a lot of action. We had a lot of good back and forth calling. We got to see some birds, even got birds in range a couple different times. But, you know, that's a good it's a good thing to kind of show you that point that it's turkey hunting. It's not going to the grocery store. Even when you get them called in,
Hmm.
there's a million different things that can go wrong. You know, that bird can spot you, or it can be just in this spot where you don't get a clear shot. And that's what happened two different times. And, you know, it's a bummer, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And, you know, we go out and give it another hunt next year, potentially. Season's now over. We were not able to hunt on Friday, so their season is over. They do not get to hunt that area again until potentially next year, but I think they're going to put in for that same area again next year and give it another try because there really were a good number of birds, and they were, I would say, very receptive to calling so far for us.
Cool.
This was around Quincy again, so results may vary.
Nice. So when you mentioned they've done a lot of prescribed burning out there. Were they burning the woods too, or mostly just kind of the prairies?
For sure, the woods, which, yeah,
Nice.
the woods
Nice.
was awesome. I mean,
Awesome.
my only complaint would be is that normally you try to burn, you know, like this area
Sure.
this area, that, so it's a little bit different. This looked like almost the entirety of the area was burned last winter, but hey, I'll take it because burn when you can. That's we hear this time and time again, especially in like the southeast where they really they don't have a shortage of trees. In Illinois, really, we have turkeys where we have mature trees, and that's where they're limited to. But for most of the southeast, they've got mature trees everywhere. So what limits them is the ability for turkeys to use those forests, and burning is what does it. And in the old days, the foresters all used to have to burn to do their jobs. But 20, 30 years ago, they got machineries where they can just drive right up, pluck the trees they want. They don't have to burn anything. And the turkeys have suffered. So a little bit different because that's in areas where trees are not a limiting factor. In Illinois, they certainly are. But fire is the friend of the turkey. I will definitely say that, and the friend of the morel mushroom too. We did not find any. It was a little too wet everywhere we were. We had muddy feet. So if we had dry areas, though, I'm pretty sure we would have found some.
Sure.
We were talking about this a little bit off podcast, but we are talking about how we have mentees and stuff that come out, new people that come out, and how we might freak them out by telling them not to move so much that they might not be able to adjust to get a shot on an animal. And I think that's a good point to mention, since we've seen it a couple times. Not saying that's the case here, but I'm just saying, you guys have anything you want to say about it's you kind of it's a trial and error problem. So people just need to, in my opinion, I think you just got to figure it out for yourself to see how much you can get away with beforehand, but don't be completely scared to not. Would be what I would say. Do you guys have any rules of thumb or anything you try to do as you're moving around when animals are
I don't
within
necessarily
range?
have a huge like rule of thumb, so to
Yeah.
speak, but like you said, so much of it comes just from, and again, I hate because it's one of those things. Well, I want to be successful this year, right? But it is one of those things that comes with experience. But one thing I learned pretty early on, and I think it was what helped me pinpoint things was I first started as a bow hunter. It was when I fell in love with shooting vertical archery. I was, shooting quote unquote competitively in college. I wanted to try to kill a turkey with my bow. And so that forced me very much to focus very much on being still until like it sounds like in this case, obviously they were behind a tree, so things are a little challenging there. But when they're in strut and rotating, and that head gets blocked by their tail,
Mm,
that's when I, as a turkey hunter, make the move that I need to, whether it's draw my bow, reposition my shotgun so that when it finally turns, or I do a little putt putt to get it to stick its head up. And so a lot of it comes from experience. But I try to use the strutting tail. And then I also try when I'm setting up in a spot, and I think I talked about it at a workshop we had 2 weekends ago. When I'm setting up, I actually try to find, and again, it can be disadvantageous, almost like it happened with Curtis, but I try to put a big tree somewhere in my field of view where I expect that bird to be, so I can kind of use that if I need to as a little bit of safety and cover. And again, I'm still not making huge drastic moves like that unless it's the moment I'm getting ready to shoot. But that's the best advice I can give is think through those things when you're picking your spot, and then hopefully that Tom or Jake gives you that nice tail feather strut that you can use to then make your move, where you, because they have such good vision. What is it, Curtis? Like 280 degrees, 290. I mean, it's incredible. So you think that bird's looking away from you, but he's still seeing you plain as day. So having that blockage of the tail feather really comes in handy. And just know
It's
that there's unfortunately not a perfect answer. Every scenario is going to be a little different. I think a perfect illustration of what I'm trying to get at is with deer hunting. I can be in my bow stand and have a doe walk 10 yards and go meh. And I can do that 15 times to 15 different deer, but there may be one that's a little more on alert that the second I make that noise, she's gone. And it only comes from experience, being able to kind of pick up on her body language. Is she on alert? Are those ears going crazy? Kind of same thing with turkey. If you just do it a lot, you're going to start to pick up on a lot of these nuances. But the best advice is just to try to plan ahead when you pick your spot, and then try to use that tail as best you can. But and
I
again, you may never get that perfect opportunity either. Sometimes they just strut back and forth and never give you the right turn to be able to
mhm.
make that move, and that's when I'll just get ready. And when I need to make my big swing, swing, and just be ready to shoot almost instantaneously.
I would
So
say,
I
oh,
kind of,
go ahead, Curtis.
yeah, I kind of like to break it down in sports terms because I come from a sports background, and so I think about this when I'm hitting. Right, I've got a certain approach on strike one, a certain approach on strike two. That changes when I get two strikes. Now it's a different approach, and that's the same way when I'm hunting. Like when I see an animal and it's not in range, I freeze. I'm a statue, and my whole goal is not to mess that up. I'm not going to do anything until that animal gets into my effective range. I don't care if I can't see it good, that's fine. I don't want to do anything until that animal is in range. Once it's in range, my approach shifts. Now I'm two strike approach. Now my goal is to do what I've got to do to get my effective shot. And so I don't think there can be a rule of thumb because it's
Mhm.
different every time. The third or fourth turkey I shot, I remember vividly. It came in on the wrong side, and I had no idea what to do. I couldn't swing my gun on it, and so I shot it left-handed. I put my gun. I had never practiced. I had never shot that way in my life, but I got that turkey. In the heat of the moment, I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, well, I guess I can shoot it with my wrong hand. That'll work, right? And I did it, and it worked. And it's nothing that I would ever teach somebody to do, but in that heat of that moment, that's what worked. And you got to have that switch of your ideology. And what helps me is just like in sports, I like to visualize the shot a dozen times before it happens. When I'm sitting out there turkey hunting, I try to envision every which way that a turkey can walk to me and what would I do. And that way I feel prepared. And that is strictly from sports because I learned all that from baseball and I apply it to hunting. And it's one of those things you can't teach because there's no rule of thumb, but it's visualizing it beforehand is certainly going to help.
Yeah, I always tell my mentees that that's something my dad told me back when I was a kid was just think of every possible way a deer could come walk into your stand and be ready for it. And I never understood visualization in sports, and I was not good at it, but I get it in hunting. Um, but I would say the one tip I can give is when you are picking a spot, when it comes to deer hunting, especially in a tree stand situation, this you can use this rule anyway. But we always talk about finding a tree that's the width of your shoulders or whatever, and having that break up your silhouette. We also talk about like sticks and things, but also take into consideration, especially with turkey, even more so than I think deer with their vision, is leafy cover. So
Hmm.
especially on these windy days, so that way you're already around something that's already moving, and that cover can cover up some of your movement as well. So not just put your back and sit next to a tree, sit next to a tree that also has brush around it as well. And I always try to, I never make a clean swing on anything. I'm always very small incremental movements whenever I can, if possible, unless I really it's last minute and it's about to run. You can tell in body language, and you just got to make a move and shoot immediately. So practice shooting quickly, in a safe way. Like if you're at a range, like swing and then make target acquisition and shoot within a motion, and then also practice moving very slowly. So that way,
I know
hopefully,
your
you can't be
equipment.
picked up.
Like the shotgun I was using has an ambidextrous safety, but it's like I got little thumbs, so it's like a big movement to get the safety off. So like when my husband was like, "Okay, like this turkey, like he's strutting, he may come over here." Like I took it off probably earlier than I would tell if I was using a different shotgun that's got just that little side button safety. You know what I mean? Because like I know that's a bigger motion that a turkey's gonna probably see too. I think that's kind of an important, or like if you've got a pump shotgun, like get that loaded before you're gonna be back in there because that's gonna be a much bigger noise or movement. You know what I mean? So just certain things I think knowing your equipment can go a long way too.
And
Hmm.
one thing I'll add, especially towards kind of Curtis's comment about visualization and trying to visualize all these different scenarios that play out, I'm the type of person that I need to act that out too. And
Hmm.
it very first started with me deer hunting, right? So when I'm up in my stand, I'll draw every area I expect that deer to come from because you may realize, oh, now when I do that in this direction, I'm hitting a twig back here, and that may be the thing that gives you away in that moment. So in addition to visualizing it when you get in your spot for turkey, practice swinging on it. Can you actually hold your, oh, well, what if it comes from here? Do I want to do it offhand or do I want to try to slowly, turn and practice that stuff when you get
Yep.
there?
You
Yeah,
might
you
not
can
be
move
I
this.
do it
spots.
every single time I get in my deer stand. I draw like 15 different directions just to make sure that I'm not making noise or hitting something weird or yeah.
I think the
Yours.
second day of our hunt, I picked three different spots. I kept moving down the line. I was like, I don't like this one enough. Like, I don't
Mhm.
like this one enough. I'm
Hmm.
like, nope, okay, this is good. I got this brushy cover. I got the back. Like I've got, you know, so
Yep.
it's okay to move around a little bit, and figure out where you're at. Got to get the
Yeah.
high.
Especially like Curtis said, before they can be in your
Yes.
visual range.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And depending on how much clothes you have on, and your flexibility might not be the same as it was at the range either. So you're
Yep.
trying to,
Yep.
especially in wintertime, you're trying to spin this way with a gun during rifle season, and you can't. So yeah,
Yeah.
knowing
Make
your
sure your stuff
range.
near you so you're not like, oh God, I can't get it. Like where to go.
Like the kid from Christmas Story. But
Yeah.
Keep
Jason's
your
tip
eye
to
out,
kick all the
kid.
leaves out of the way
yep, get all your
around your
leaves out of the
feet.
way to make sure you're not loud. But yeah, that leafy cover, move slow, and also at the end of the day, do not be afraid to mess up. It's as long as you're
You're
making a
going to
safe
mess
shot.
up.
Yeah,
You're
as long
going
as you're
to.
making a safe shot. If you're scaring something off, you're scaring something off. That's fine. But
And that's how
And
we
it's okay
learn.
not to take a shot. Like if you're not sure of a
yeah.
shot, don't take it. Like I feel like sometimes people have a hard time. Like it's okay to just not take a shot.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we had fun. We didn't fire our gun, but you know what? That turkey also didn't spook.
Hmm.
So
That's a win.
yeah, it didn't help us, but guess what? Whoever goes in there second season, they're still gonna get probably a hot bird that's very callable, and somebody else will get a crack at them, and it's just the way the opportunities go. We learned something this year. Hopefully next year they'll be ready to notch a tag. But another thing I want to mention about the burned woods: zero ticks.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not
Very
obviously
key.
I still had permethrin and all that stuff. You still want to practice your precaution, but um, I noticed it after 3 days of hunting and moving around all over the place in the woods. I found zero ticks. I didn't hear that they had found any either. So the combination of the permethrin and the nice burned woods, hey, it's I'll take it.
You had better
Nice.
luck than I did with that. My spot was
Same.
pretty burned too,
Same.
but I only found one like on me. I was flicking a few off though as we were sitting there.
Lauren, you want to talk about kind of where you went and what your experience was?
Sure. So I was down near Peoria. I was also first segment. I did have my husband and I had a tag, and then we brought along a friend slash mentee. This is my third year slash time out turkey hunting. So every year I feel like I get a little better because like we've talked about, it's not, you don't have a ton of time to learn. So, um, getting a little better. With the weather, we were supposed to go beginning of the week, ended up switching it towards the end of the week. We were initially going to camp and ended up not because the campsite was swarming with hornets and wasps, and that's just not a good time. And thunderstorms and tornado warnings and just no fun. Um, so the
Yeah,
first
it was
night,
nasty that week.
yeah, it was gross. Like it was just not a good time. And I felt vindicated because I did end up running into a another turkey hunter in a parking lot when I was getting coffee one of the days who did camp and he got stung by a hornet or wasp in his sleep. And so when he was camping, so I was like, worth it. So yeah. So first night, it was Wednesday. First afternoon, we went and did a little bit of scouting. We could not roost them because it was just they had a really bad storm coming in the late afternoon. But we did find had eyes on two separate like little flocks of turkeys in a series of kind of interconnected fields, and then we heard a gobble off in a distance. So we kind of marked where everything was. Didn't really see much sign, but it had been so rainy. I mean, it just everything was washed away. And where I was, the soil was very sandy, so it was
Very
just
sandy.
everything was
Yeah.
gone. Yeah. Um, so at least we kind of had, and the way the fields were connected, it felt like we could kind of work our way in and hunt our way back, if that makes sense. And kind of like if we bumped them, and if we split up too, if we bumped them, it should bump to the other hunter with us and vice versa. So it felt like just with how we saw them when we, were scouting. So we felt like cautiously optimistic. You never know. And they were gobbling a little bit, like making some noise even in the afternoon. So we're like, okay. And then first morning of our hunt comes around, and they're not really making any noise at all. I will say when I ran into that turkey hunter later that day, he noticed because he was out hunting that Wednesday as well. He said he noticed they weren't really talking at all Thursday too, so it wasn't just in my head. So talk to your fellow hunters if you run into them. They're always nice to chat with when you're out getting coffee. So we started separated us and then our mentee on different sides of the field where we first started, sat for a while, heard a little bit, but nothing really responding. Everything was kind of far, not a lot going on. Got up after a little bit, kind of moved our way down the field. This site has like very gentle hills in the middle of the field, so you can accidentally, even though you're walking, not know what's on the other side. It looks like a big open flat field, but it's not. So when we had been scouting, I accidentally basically jumped a bunch of turkeys because we just didn't know they were there because they were so quiet. So my husband and I were walking, and I was like, "Hey, we should do some kind of call or something," because like I have a feeling there's something over this hill. So we did. Nothing happens. We're like, okay, and then we walk over it, and we see this turkey, and we basically jump into the bushes next to us because we're just like, "Oh no!" It was a hen, so it didn't. I mean, it wasn't a huge deal. And she didn't really rush off. She just kind of was like, "All right, whatever," and just kind of wandered away. But we waited in that area for quite a while and heard a little bit of gobbling, but nothing came over to us, even though we had the hen kind of hanging out for a while. So we waited until 9:30, 10 o'clock ish. Nothing really came. We kind of peeked out. She had wandered off. So we're like, all right. We met up with our mentee, got some coffee, talked to that hunter. Power in the whole town went out. That was a noteworthy event. Um, Kind of regrouped our strategy, like where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. And went back to a different section and kind of was listening around, figuring out sort of where else we might want to go. Did some scouting as we went. And just like I said, they weren't really talking that day. Like there just wasn't a lot going on. So we put in quite a bit. We did cover quite a bit of ground and found more sign, but just not a lot moving on. So the next day we kind of went in the backside of that field where we saw that hen, and circled kind of back in through the other side, got in early and kind of hunkered down in a line, kind of stuck together. We're kind of waiting, heard gobbles to the left and the right. We're like, okay, good. They're making a lot more noise, a lot more movement. Like we could hear them. The one on the left just wouldn't come. Like he would not cross into the field with us. Like he just wouldn't do it. We did hear a pheasant too. He sounded like a dinosaur just running around off in the distance. I don't know if you guys have heard. Well, you guys have heard, but I don't know if anybody,
Oh
our
yeah.
listeners, have
Yeah.
heard pheasants just doing their little call out in the wild. Um, And then we start hearing this noise, and like my husband was like, he's texting me and he's like, "Are you calling?" He's like, "Are we calling another hunter to us? Like, what is this?" And it sounded like a really crappy box call. Like it was like you would have thought it was like a 5-year-old with like a call just like messing around. And like we finally look over and there's this hen, probably the same hen, who just like pops out. She's just like, "Hello? Is there anyone here?" Like what, like we had a couple decoys out just to, why not? And she's just hanging out, looking for. She came very close, like she was just, kind of hanging out. I have a very out of focus video of her, and she's just, she didn't see us. She was just kind of, walking around, like yelling at the decoys, yelling at us, like yelling at the calls, just, and we hear, the male goblin off in the distance, but he will not come to us. He will not come to her. So she eventually just got mad and like walked off, like she wasn't in a hurry. So I'm fairly confident, we were hidden. And we eventually finally we hear him coming, and he never actually crossed fully into the field. I was on the very end, towards where he was coming, and he kind of came across the edge of the field and then like skirted up and did a little strut, but he just, again, he wouldn't come out. Like he wasn't into it, and then he just kind of wandered off. So we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we start to hear the gobbles just moving further and further away. It was our last day of the hunt, so we're like, all right, not a lot going on. Like everybody kind of left, everything kind of wandered out. Um, and then we're getting ready to go out, and we look out, like, kind of along this lane, and there's another hen to the left, just kind of wandering in towards us. So we're kind of starting to slowly pack up because again, there's nothing going on, and she just kind of eventually ambles away. So we had two hens come in towards us. So I felt like we were doing all right. We were hidden
Yeah.
well, we were doing calls, but just the boys were like, we're not really into it today. So that was our that was our experience. But we were sitting still enough. I had a squirrel almost jump in my lap. I had to be like, "Hey, you gonna stop?" And it the look on this squirrel's face was like a little kid looking like he dropped his lollipop. Like he was standing on his hind legs. It was just like gasp. Like it was so funny. It was the funniest thing. Jacob, my husband, saw it and we laughed about that. We've been laughing about that squirrel ever since. And he had one that like leaned up against the tree looking at him, trying to figure out what he was. Like the wildlife is fun. So that was our great turkey adventure. It was, you know, it was fun. We had, like I said, we had some interactions. We had the hen, talking back and forth to us. So it's the most we've had so far. It was a good. I wish we'd had another day, but couldn't do much with the weather. I felt like every day we got it more dialed in. Um, weren't a ton of hunters out. Like I said, mostly that one we ran into in the coffee shop parking lot. Saw a couple other trucks out, but nowhere near us. We never ran into anybody out in
No.
the field. Um, saw a coyote, saw a couple deer, lots of deer tracks, lots of squirrels, lots of rabbits. But yeah,
Cool. Well, it sounds like you saw a lot.
yeah, lots of burned
Hmm.
area. But it was almost like too much burned. Like it was like woods. It was like there was just so many spots where it was like if I was a turkey, I'd be anywhere in here.
Mm,
Flushed a lot of wood ducks when we were scouting, just hanging out. I don't know what that was about, but so it was a good time. A little more
Nice.
ticky than Curtis is, but you know,
hmm Cool.
Yeah, it's also a good time to mention that we talk about this in our webinar, of course, but we're trying to do the opposite of biology. What's
yes.
normal is that the gobbler's going to go down to his display area and he's going to gobble and he's going to strut and he's going to look fit
Hmm.
and the hen is going to come to him. So everything you experience, like that's what's supposed to happen. So the gobbler's not supposed to come to us. That's like, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, whatever. I don't know if we have to say bad stuff or nice stuff on the call to get them to come to us, but one or the other. I don't think you can just be like, normal complacent, then things go as normal. So you either got to be angry or really extra nice.
I mean, I was like, hey, at least we're bringing in the hens. Like, at least we're like clearly we're hidden. Like, we're doing a good job with like sitting still, being where we are, you know. But she was mad those decoys weren't like, you know, acknowledging her enough. Like, she was getting very upset, and then she just like I said, she just walked off. She was like, forget it, I'm out of here. So it was fun,
Man,
live and
that
learn.
stinks. When you're around hens like that, you think the toms will be right on top of you.
I know. I was like, we have a live decoy, basically.
Yeah.
And he was just like, nah, I'm not coming over there. And I'm like, there's a hen right here. She's like, and I had gobbles on both sides. I think I texted you guys. I was like, and they're like, no. The one was like, there was a line of, so this area has a lot of big, like, thick pine stands, kind of like dividing up these fields. And even though
Mhm.
there's a big opening, he's like, I'm not going in there. And I'm like, dude, like, just walk through it. And he's like,
Did you
not doing
try?
it.
Did you try coming in from different angles around that same one that was gobbling that morning, or did you
We
just kind of hang
did
tight?
we did the second day, but kind of where we were if we moved because they were on both sides. Like if we'd gotten up, like they would have just, scattered off and just
Hmm.
we would upset everybody. Because there was also a fire break behind us, so like on the other side of the woods, so I didn't want them to be like sneaking along. Like there was just nowhere we could have really gone without, you know. And it was our last day, so we were kind of like we only have, so much time. Because we were
Hmm.
doing good, like they were moving, they were coming towards us, and then they would just be like, just kind of wander away. But it was fun. Like I said, I wish we had another day because I think, like I said, we were getting it dialed more and more dialed in. They were starting to get a little more fired up because that first day they weren't really doing much. But you know, getting better every year. Maybe next year.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I
Only
mean
short
seeing the
seasons. Got
females and hearing them, and I mean it's very hard to lose hope when you have all that going on. I mean, at least it's an exciting hunt almost the whole time.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, like how like fate her call sounded. Like it just sounded very like you give like a little
That's
kid a
what we try
call.
to preach so much whenever we do a calling demonstration at a workshop or a little calling clinic is man, you don't have to sound perfect, and no
No.
turkey ever does. They all sound different. They all sound somewhat fake at times. Yeah, it's
And like I
you
know
do
this, and
not
I
have
was
to be
still surprised.
perfect.
Like my husband was like, "Are we drawing another hunter to us? Like what's happening here?" Because like I said, there's that fire break so behind us, so we could hear it coming from that like direction. And then she like popped out of the woods, and we're like, "Oh, okay, cool." Because I couldn't see very well because I had all those bushes in front of me. So
We always say that hunters are a way worse, more harsh judge than birds. Like, because yeah, we
Amen to
heard
that.
stories from outdoor life of an old timer calling in a bird with a rusty gate. You
yeah,
Hmm.
know, so it really don't be ashamed if your calling doesn't sound like the caller you listen to on TikTok or on videos. If the turkey responds to you, guess what? It's working. What you're doing is working. Just keep doing it. And you mentioned the exciting factor. I think we got to harp on that a little bit more because this is the reason why I think everybody needs to go out and try turkey hunting. It is not deer hunting. You know, I mean, you can turkey hunt the same way you deer hunt, where you just go and sit in a good spot and wait. And if that's your thing, power to you. But the whole time, the 3 days we hunted, I don't know if we ever sat in a spot for more than 25 minutes. We were constantly moving, always moving towards an active bird. And you don't even have time to get bored. It's just excitement, excitement, excitement.
but yeah, just lots of hens.
Well, that's a good sign for turkey population. At least there's hens
Hmm.
out there. That means there'll be
Yeah,
more there
there's
next
so
year.
many hens,
Yeah,
so many hens down there.
cool. All right, Dan, I think you also got out too, right?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll kind of simplify my story. Thursday, we went out Wednesday, Thursday, we were in the north zone, kind of the opposite side of the state than Lauren and Curtis were on. We were more in the eastern portion of the state. Thursday, we just ran into hunter after hunter after hunter and never really got our groove going. But Wednesday was arguably one of the more exciting hunts I think I've ever had for turkey, especially in Illinois. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, kind of off the podcast, but I haven't really even told the full story because I kind of wanted to save it for here because it's far and away one of the cooler hunts I've ever been on.
Oh,
But like you guys, Wednesday was a very stormy day, and we knew that, and so we knew the storms were going to hit the area we were hunting by 8:30 to 9 o'clock. So that kind of put an impetus. Hey, I want to really get on birds quick and get this going. And so I drove up the night before, went out and roosted some birds. Didn't hear as many birds as I expected, but I did hear a few that were kind of in an area that I thought we could kill a bird in. And so we snuck in there first thing Wednesday morning. And what was really cool, not to over romanticize things too much, but my mentee, this was the first time he'd literally ever been in the woods at night. And you could tell that through every question he asked. And it was just so cool. And you could see a transition as the nerves started to transition towards like excitement. The very first few questions were, what if I screw up? What if I miss the bird? What if I scare the bird before I shoot? What if I mess up some other hunter's hunt? And as we're walking to the spot, those questions started to transition to more strategic, and you could see those wheels start turning in his head, and that was super cool. But we got set up about, I would say, as a crow flies, 150 yards from where I roosted those birds the night prior. And what was really cool is when I roosted them, I could actually see hens up on a roost. I have a picture of it. It's not very great because it's with the phone far away, but I'll send it to Jason so he can throw it. But you can see the dots. And what I'm seeing there is a hen roost, and it sounded like the gobbler roost was probably 50 yards or so to the east, just a little further up the ridge. And so we snuck into this field. And to set the stage a little bit, this field is mostly prairie grasses that was not burned this year, but there's a really nice fire break only on one side of the field. So it doesn't strip through the whole around the whole field, just on kind of one portion of it. And so we kind of sat on that side of the field, probably sucked into the woods, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 yards just to give us some really good cover because it wasn't a very hard edge. There wasn't a ton of vegetation right at that edge. It was fairly open woods, which if you're in Illinois, I'm pretty much describing a bush honeysuckle forest where underneath it, because these are tall bush honeysuckle too, like that you can just walk through. And so there's not a ton of vegetation on the ground. So we wanted to suck back in the woods a little bit. And we get set up and we just kind of sit and wait and wait. And if you've ever heard me talk about turkey hunting, I never want to be the first turkey talking in the woods. I always like to let the woods naturally wake up. And I knew it was fairly overcast. And so when I realized that, I kind of expected, okay, they're probably going to start gobbling a little bit later. They're probably going to leave the roost a little bit later. And that's kind of exactly how it played out. But we were sitting there and we finally heard the gobble from the bird that we roosted the night prior. So we started doing some very soft yelping. And he got to the point, if I made one or two notes on my call, he was gobbling instant every single time. And so I'm super excited. I think we finally have a good shot at this bird coming in. We hear the hens do the fly down cackle and get off the roost. We never necessarily heard him get off the roost, but once those hens hit the ground, he went completely silent. He didn't gobble the rest of the morning. And so I feel like we're still in the zone. We had actually seen the hens feeding in this field before they went up to the roost the night prior. And so okay, well, maybe they'll just come out to this field naturally and start feeding around and we can get some eyes on him and maybe he's following them. So we sit there fairly quiet for another 15 or 20 minutes. Don't hear anything. So I give another really soft yelp and then boom, I hear a gobble from behind us. And I'm like, crap, because I know behind us, to set the stage a little bit more, there's a creek that's probably 10 or 15 feet across, not a super huge creek, but enough that sometimes that can cause a turkey to hang up. And so I'm like, crap, is it on this side of the creek? Is it on the other side? But I finally get to the point, like, hey, that's probably the bird. Let's start turning and get ready to get set up from a bird coming from that direction because it would have been, completely behind us. And so right as we start turning, we hear a couple yelps. And I didn't actually hear him. My mentee heard him. He goes, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And I said, "No." So he sat there for a few more seconds and we started to hear some soft purring, some soft yelping. And so we could tell where those hens were just on the other side of that prairie grass. So we couldn't see them. They were blocked by those tall grasses, but they had to be within 50 or 60 yards. They sounded fairly close. And so I start calling a little bit more, and boom, he starts gobbling. His gobble now sets off the turkey behind us gobbling. And so they're having like this gobble fest just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this lasted, it literally felt like Curtis said, it literally feels like an hour and a half goes by. It was probably in reality like 3 or 5 minutes, not super long, but we just kept that same conversation going, kept calling a little bit. One would gobble, then the other one would gobble, And what I started to notice was this bird behind us was not moving. That gobble was pretty much in the exact same spot every single time. So I kind of in the back of my head was like, okay, he's probably hung up on that creek. He's probably just going to stay on the other side of it, wait for those hens to maybe come to where he can see them, and then maybe he'll fly over, or maybe he wants that, whatever. He just didn't move. And so now we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I've done a lot of reflecting back on this and trying to figure out because I won't lie, when I'm hunting with a mentee, I do hunt differently than if I was hunting by myself. If I was hunting by myself, I literally probably would have made a play on that tom and those hens that were protected by the prairie grass and across the field. I think we could have done some crawling type situation that we could have snuck into a little better of a position, but I kind of decided to just play it safe. We had these two birds talking within 50 or 60 yards of us. I felt good. And then it was like a light switch went off. They went completely silent, nothing talking anymore. I'm still doing a little bit of calling to try to get that response back. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see the hens finally pop out from the prairie grass and start just going back up into the woods. And then about 30 seconds later, here comes that Tom, and he sneaks right behind him and does the exact same thing. So probably not going to pull him away. So at that point, I know, okay, those birds are probably out of play, but we still got this one behind us that we never really saw. We don't really know where he was. We started to make a little bit of move and we jumped him. So he did eventually cross the freaking river, probably got within, I don't know, 30 to 35 yards of where we are, but went completely silent. And so much time had elapsed and I was so focused on this other bird that I kind of forgot that, yeah, he may have come over. Again, we never heard him fly over or anything, but we definitely boogered that up. So it definitely made some mistakes on my part. And that's what I always like about turkey hunting is going back and reflecting on what went wrong, what didn't, that type of thing. I never thought I would be able to pull that bird across the river, especially staying that silent the entire time. But boogered it up, messed it up. But hey, again, it was one of the just having two birds within like 50 yards of you like that. And we were very much in the middle. And when I first heard those hens, that's what really got me excited because I was like, okay, the hens are there. We are here. And the Tom is right on. So if he makes a play to those hens, he's going to come literally right past us. And unfortunately, he probably was going to do that. Just he decided to go silent on us. And yeah, but
Yeah, that's so hard, man.
yeah, yeah.
Two things. One, that's the second bird that I know of, at least in the past 5 years, you've caught across the river, which is pretty good. It's hard to do
I'll take
that.
it. Yeah, yeah. Except the
Uh,
last one I killed. Yeah.
yeah. And then two, whenever you're turkey hunting, if it goes quiet, I mean, it's the thoughts in your head just start racing, and you just think that they just turned around and ran away from you. But in reality, half the time they turn around and they're moving. And that's why they're not
Yep.
calling you no more. Is because it takes everything. Whenever they're gobbling, they're using their whole body to gobble. So they're not really
Right.
walking and gobbling. So if they're not gobbling, they might be moving and they might be running right for you. And you just got to
And what's
lie to
really
yourself
annoying
that
is
they're
Lauren and
coming.
I had a turkey workshop like a week and a half ago. So literally
Hmm.
a week before this hunt. And we literally created a scenario where I was walking around acting as the turkey. People had to call me in. And then I had Lauren hide with another gobbler call. And I went completely silent and disappeared. And then all of a sudden she gobbled from right behind him. Yeah,
Yep. I know. And it's one thing to say it.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's
just
one
a little
thing to
bit.
say it.
Yep.
I'll say it now, and then I'm gonna mess it up come May. I'll be the
Yeah.
one who buggers out the bird running right at me.
Yep.
That's so because you don't know that. You don't know where it's at
Yeah,
or
you
when it's
don't
Oh, you
going
have
when they're
know.
no idea. You
quiet.
have no
After
idea.
all morning of hearing it like every 5 seconds,
It
every
was
time you
it
make a
was
no
literally
call,
one
it
of the
gobbles and then
most
it goes
like
quiet. Yeah,
gobble heavy days I've ever had. Yeah.
bummer.
But even for your mentee though, like that's just such a cool, like even if you didn't get the bird, like that's such a cool experience. Like even
Yeah.
with Curtis's too, like even with ours, like my mentee was like, that was super awesome. Like she's excited to go out and try, like so
Yeah, it was really funny because again, and I had kind of run through like how I expected the day to go a little bit. And I expected I kind of said it was very overcast that day because the storms were literally coming in by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that's what really sucked. The second we bumped that, I'm assuming it was a Jake because it wasn't super big. When it flushed, you could kind of see it a little bit. It looked
Mm.
a little smaller. But the second we flushed him, within like 5 minutes, we heard a huge clap of thunder, and that was it. And we hung out in the truck for literally like 2.5 hours, but it just would not stop storming. And so that was kind of the end of that day. But that first gobble off the roost, I've never heard somebody audibly gasp from being scared by a gobble, but it caught my hunter so far off guard. And you could just I could literally I feel like hear his heart pounding out of his chest as they, because you guys have been there. You hear that one gobble, and then okay, and then he gobbles again, and then you just start to hear like this cascade of other birds and oh yeah, it was.
I spend so much time being like, is that a gobble? Am I manifesting it? Or is that a freaking woodpecker far away
Oh
drilling into a
Mm,
yeah.
tree?
So it
Like,
was
am
such a
I
good
just,
hunt, but it would have been the perfect story if we would have ended up killing that bird. But
yeah. Jason's
man.
got to bring it home for us.
Yeah, right.
and
I
I've
bet.
luckily I'll be out on I leave Friday to do another mentored hunt up in Joe Davies County, so I'm
Oh, well,
very
yeah. That's a
very
good turkey
excited for that
county.
hunt.
That's
That
a
Yep.
should
good
be
turkey county.
that should be a lot of fun. And then I have another one May 2nd, 3rd. So I'll still get out quite a bit. I did not draw a permit this year, so I've pretty much just been saying yes to anybody who wants a mentor as long as I can work it with my schedule. So
You're taking basically 5 people out this weekend. Is that right? Are they all or do they all need a mentee, or are some of them
they
more
don't all need a
experienced?
mentee, but they're all brand new hunters. They've never
Yeah,
harvested a turkey before, so
that's wild. That's
the
gonna be a cool
pressure is
story to
on.
hear.
Yeah.
Dude, either way, I mean, you guys are all got smiles on your faces now. You guys all
Oh
made
yeah,
memories with
yeah.
every person you went out with. You saw
Yep.
some crazy stuff. You heard some crazy things. You learned some things.
And again, like I said, this was by far one of the more fun turkey hunts I've had. And it was
Mhm.
just obviously the way the scenario played out, having birds literally 50 yards either side of you, just gobbling their faces off for minutes at a time. But also, and again, not to over romanticize it, but you could literally see the joy on Jesse's face as as this all played out. And again, he's wearing like a full face mask. You could see his bright, smiling white teeth through that face mask clear as day. So he definitely had a ton of fun and learned a lot, but would have been a lot
Yeah,
better
my
to.
mentee was funny because she'd gone up a little earlier to scout and she was like, I wasn't finding anything. And then I was really excited because as soon as you guys came here, we started finding tracks and and I was like, it's nice when it works. Like,
Yep.
Mhm.
like Jason said before, it's always like it's so funny because we do this, but it's always nice when we apply what we do at work and it works.
Hmm.
Like,
Mhm. Yes. You got any closing thoughts, Curtis, on your hunt, your mentees at all? Did Curtis leave?
Nope, I'm
Oh,
here.
there you go. All right, we'll do that again. I'll cut this out. Curtis, you got any final thoughts on your mentees or your hunt at all?
No, just same things we've said. Turkey hunting is it's an exciting time to be in the woods, whether you get something or not. Look for mushrooms, get all the birds calling. It's a fun time if you are protected from the ticks and you're checking for them diligently and you're being safe. Turkey season's one of my favorite seasons out there, so give it a try if you're able. Obviously, if you don't have a tag by now, you're kind of out of luck. But hey, give it a try next year.
add that reminder to your phone now. It'll
Hmm.
be in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yep. And
When
apply
you're
for your
thinking
deer
about
firearm
eating
tag.
turkey, yeah, when you're thinking about eating turkey, you need to be thinking about applying for that spring turkey lottery.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for all your stories. I'm looking forward to hearing some more. Dan, especially when you get back out. And
Yeah, I've never hunted. I've been to Joe Davies,
mhm.
been to Galena a few times, and I grew up hunting Missouri. I tell you what, Joe Davies County reminds me of kind of southern Missouri. You've got these rolling hills. It's very much more pasture focused than where we hunt, which is very ag dominant. And so I'm excited just to try something completely different in Illinois that I haven't got to do in a long time, and that's hunt some of these rolling hills, more terrain, more pasture. I'm excited. And
Hey,
again,
man.
it's like the turkey capital of the state, so
We keep
it should
saying
be
it, so I'm happy to. I'm waiting for you to come back and be like, it was crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We got all the turkeys.
Yeah, we
Yep,
got
yep.
Everybody
all
limited
five.
out.
We all shot at the same time. This lined up in a row. It was wild.
Yep, but I'll be heading up Friday afternoon and we'll hunt Saturday and Sunday. And I think they're going to stay Monday and Tuesday. So depending how it goes, I may stick up there a couple extra days too if I'm having a ball.
That's cool. Maybe we'll interview them or something if they want, or any of the
Yeah.
other mentees if we want to. We'll get some other any of
Yeah, and
their
speaking of that, I
point of
actually
views.
wrote an article describing the hunt. I just kind of told the story, but I got Jesse to give me a few quotes for it. So that article will come out in the Outdoor Illinois Journal in about 10 days. So that's on May 1st, essentially. And if you never heard of the Outdoor Illinois Journal, it's a free online quarterly publication that's put out by Illinois DNR. It's basically all these really cool articles that either focus on hunting, focus on habitat, focus on some wildlife science, some conservation. But if you're just looking to absorb more information, definitely check out the Outdoor Illinois Journal. I'll have Jason put a link down in the show notes below because it's a really nice way just to again stay connected with the outdoor folks in the state, see what's going on, and maybe read some good stories. But
Hmm. Yeah, and Illinois focus too, which is great.
very, yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for your time, and we'll talk to you guys later.
awesome. Good luck
All
out
right.
there.
Yeah.
Good luck, everybody.